All right, welcome back from our break to class 4, the power of brushwork, session 1, sky and trees. And we're going to be doing a quick, I hope quick, color wheel of green, which I've never done before, but I'm excited to experiment and show how we can change the color of green here. So really quickly, you can see that I've pulled out a whole bunch of paints. These are all the greens that I kind of put out for the most part to experiment a little bit about with. But for the most part, I want to show you how we can use a split primary palette to really get a good feel for a huge amount of greens. So I'll quickly squeeze that out. So this is just some nice, simple, cheap titanium white. And I'm going to go ahead and put out cadmium yellow just because we know that it's quite a bit stronger than the Hansa yellow that I typically use, or maybe I can even put out both.
That would be a good idea.
All right, so I'll put the Hansa yellow to the left.
Okay.
Add yellow light.
Yeah, this is Hansa yellow light. And I'm actually having to look for a tube of cadmium yellow. I just don't have that much of it left. I haven't been buying it, so here we go.
Is that medium or light?
This is lemon,
Oh, lemon. Okay.
which is pretty close to light, basically. And you can tell whenever I have this duct tape on it, these are tubes that have traveled with me to other countries. I put the duct tape on there because these little corners are so sharp that during travel, sometimes they'll stab into each other. So I'll simply just put a little bit of something soft like some tissue and then wrap it with duct tape. And then the fact that it's gone up so far probably means that it was already punctured. So that's how you know it's an old tube or it's had some adventures with me. I'm gonna put.
Everything is better with duct tape.
That's right. Yeah. Here we go. Cadmium red, but I am using a 1980, so it's not going to be quite as vibrant.
Is lemon yellow a cadmium?
Cadmium red light, which will be my more orangish yellow. Then quinacridone red, which again is just becoming kind of my all-around red right now for a lot of my paintings. So I'm just squeezing out my very typical, or a very close version of my very typical colors, my split primary palette. I don't have Indian yellow on there. I should probably put that, but I'll maybe put it as a guest. Ultramarine blue and manganese blue hue.
Are you going to use Payne's gray as your third blue?
Sure could. You know what I might use though is ivory black, because that is one of the colors that I actually use when I'm purposely mixing a whole bunch of greens. So that is ivory black. So I need to kind of quickly lay them out on my palette in that same order so that I kind of know. So that's how I will often keep track. Oh, you guys can't see it. Often I'll keep track of my colors, how they're laid out. I'll just put the tubes out the same way. I have a whole extra shelf that I built that attaches to my palette just for that. I don't normally have 87 tubes of paint out here like this. But I want to start with that exploration because that is very close to what we are using. And I will go ahead and squeeze out some Indian yellow because I do know that a number of you are starting to use it a little more often, or it's becoming more of a regular color. So I'll just put it in between there. So we do have 3 yellows out right now. I do not have the transparent yellow out that we were talking about, but I do have it here, so we can experiment with that. And I also put out some yellow ochre, or grab some yellow ochre. And then I still have the Payne's gray. So we can experiment with all these.
So
But
what 3 yellows do you have up total?
right now I have the Hansa yellow light. I've got cadmium lemon. And I've never really cared too much if it's cadmium yellow light or cadmium lemon. I maybe should find out what the actual difference is, but I've never cared. It never seemed strong enough to worry about. And then Indian yellow, or India yellow, as we're calling it now. Cadmium red light, quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, manganese blue hue, and then instead of a Payne's gray, which I use more often, I put out ivory black, and I will show you why here in just a little bit. But I'm going to do, and you guys feel free to do this if you want to make a color wheel. And then I also did where I can experiment with the transparency. You know, I put up some lines and some different things that I can use, which will be fun for me to continue to experiment on. There's probably a lot more space here than I need for today. But I like having these little charts that I can review in my studio. So, you know, if you're wanting to do something a little extra. So I'm just going to put out which yellow. I'm going to put out the lemon, the cadmium lemon. Just going to put a little dab of it there. And squeeze out a little bit of the Indian yellow, put it up here. I'm going to put out some of the cad red medium here. Quinacridone over here.
There we go.
Ultramarine blue roughly around here. And manganese blue hue here. Well, I could have probably spread it out a little more. Actually, that would have probably been better to put it up a little further away. But what I want to do is I'm going to just make a couple of the most customary blues that we make with this palette. So the first and the most spring-like blue, who wants to guess what that is? What,
Do you mean green?
what did I just say?
Blue.
Like blue.
Yeah, thank you. What is the most spring-like green? Thank you, appreciate that.
Probably your Hansa yellow and manganese blue.
Right.
Perfect. So we're just going to mix a little bit of that here. And it's actually the cadmium right now. Should be using a palette knife to mix these, but it should make a very vibrant, very bright spring green. So we can probably pretty much safely put that in between here. Right? Because it's just kind of those two connected. I'm going to start mixing with my palette knife so I don't keep contaminating all my yellows. Those are going to be useful. Let's go ahead and test Hansa yellow and quinacridone or ultra manganese blue hue. Thank you very much. And let's just see how
Screamy.
vibrant. Yeah, it's very vibrant as well.
And that's due to its transparency more than anything else. Is that correct? Because the cad yellow.
Sure could be, yeah. And maybe I added more yellow to it. Let's go ahead and take that and put that, and that's just going to be, I mean, it's basically almost the same, right? It's
A little brighter.
a little brighter, so I could almost put it on the outside here.
Sure. Actually, now it looks bluer.
So maybe a little more over here. If I were being smarter, it does look bluer, but that's also by how much yellow, right? So with the Hansa, let's add a little more yellow to it. And that's what gets tricky is when you start using a lot of colors, all of a sudden your color wheel. So I'm just going to put the Hansa on the outside. You can hardly see the difference, right?
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bit. So I added more yellow. So I'm going to move it over towards the yellow. Let's even add more Hansa yellow. Good job using your palette knife, Mike.
Bad habits.
So you can see I can make exceptionally bright and fairly beautiful greens. If I'm, if I really, gosh, I need 3 hands, one to hold the paper towel. This has got a lot of yellow in it. So let's see how it looks next to it. But those are gorgeous, right? I mean, that literally just feels like so lively and beautiful and spring-like. So let's go the other direction real quick. Add a little more manganese, or a lot. Is that about the same as we had there in the middle? A little more yellow. So that's what I'm curious about is I don't see a huge amount of difference between the cadmium and the Hansa, but I wonder if I just have to add a lot more, or if it's the fact that both the Hansa and the manganese are somewhat transparent. So that's where, yeah, the whole theory, I mean, there's just books and books and books on color mixing, and it's just such an interesting thing. So a lot of times just kind of finding what works is super useful. So this is the cadmium lemon yellow again. Much stickier than the Hansa yellow. Really not that dissimilar
They're
at all.
pretty close.
It
Very
kind of makes me
close.
feel pretty okay about having more of the Hansa, but yeah, I was curious. Once it starts to gray down, and I'm talking to you, Gail, once it starts to gray down, I wonder if the Hansa yellow really just becomes too weak.
Well, I think the difference is whether or not you're glazing or, trying to cover something. First, using the transparent versus the opaque.
If you do those, the outer one doesn't have the black line, so I wonder if it's as opaque or more transparent.
The outside one should definitely be more transparent,
Yeah,
I would
okay.
imagine. Yeah. All right, so now let's get a little crazy. Let's see what happens when we mix Indian yellow and manganese. So hopefully you guys are already getting to a point where you can kind of begin to guess, right? Because the Indian yellow leans towards orange, right? I mean, it looks orange. So it has kind of a little bit more red to it. So when we mix that with our
Much
manganese
darker.
blue hue, it's darker. Wow, it looks really dark on the screen.
Nice and rich.
Dark
It's
olive.
very rich.
Like that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful color. Let's go ahead and just see before I start putting it on. What happens if we add white to it? Because we were talking about that the Indian yellow or those transparent yellows, when you add white to them, right, it becomes a different color.
Yeah,
Let's see what happens when we mix blue with that. What a difference,
Oh my,
right?
it's almost like the two above it, above the dark one.
Yeah, just a little redder, right? A little
Yeah.
more.
It's a little more olive look.
Yeah. So that would be like, okay, how do I do this color wheel? Right? Because I don't want to add, you know, all the whites and everything, but we're just going to kind of come across into the middle. Again, we're making that line across, right? Add more yellow to that and just see what happens. But you can see how different of greens all of a sudden we're making. To add a lot more manganese to it. Both very transparent colors again, so got to kind of make sure I'm trying to keep the density the same. Indian yellow. Well, actually, let's start a little more simple than that. Let's do ultramarine blue, which is our purpley blue. I don't know if this color wheel is really going to work out because I don't know how to cross these paths and make them clear.
Should have made it pie shaped.
Something, yeah. And yeah. So ultramarine blue. And I'm just going to go with the cadmium yellow because that's the one that's actually on there. And it should make one of my favorite kind of olivey greens. A little dirtier.
It almost looks like the cadmium has a little white in it.
Mm-hmm.
Does,
A
yeah.
little more opaque, so.
Maybe that's what the light means on cadmium yellow light. I wonder. Huh.
well, I think that I looked at some one time and it is the same number. If you look at or at least when I looked at my tubes for something, it was the same number. All of them had the same number. One was just lighter and one was darker. So it would have to be white, wouldn't it?
Or just more of that yellow pigment can lighten it. Yeah, I'm very curious. Man, so yeah, it's funny how you just kind of get used to working with certain tools. So this will be our ultramarine, and so yeah, it definitely feels a little creamier.
Yeah.
And I have more of that.
Yes.
Let's do more ultramarine, get it a little darker. Yeah, I gotta probably figure out a better system for doing all these, but
It may have to be more than one color wheel, huh?
yeah, maybe it would be. But I guess I'm kind of trying to figure out where in space too, like maybe this, if this was brown in here, you know, maybe where I would maybe should just be mixing them and then seeing where do they exist in space. Yeah, it's interesting. All right, so let's go back to our very vibrant greens here. So we can make a very bright, springy green. And now I'm just kind of jumping around. I'm adding all sorts of stuff, but I just kind of want to show you how we can bend these colors. So now I've got a bright, vibrant spring green again. It's kind kind of equal about to there, maybe even a little more towards the yellow, right? So now if I have a very vibrant, bright green, but I want it to feel a little more midsummer or early fall, what am I going to do to that?
A little bit of red.
Perfect. Let's add a little bit, just a touch. So just a very little bit. It doesn't take much all of a sudden to start to get it to bend. And this is kind of the greens I see in nature. Oftentimes can be pretty bright and light, but they get just a little bit duller. And oftentimes I find, you know, I used to try to mix more blue, but then they would get too dark. So now I find a lot of times that a touch of red all of a sudden can get them to calm down. You can already see that difference between a slightly dulled brown green and that vibrant spring green over here. And just a touch. That's a lot more green, or a lot more red. And this is the warm orange red. I could easily you see that transition
Yep.
as it kind of warms up. And isn't that interesting that you would almost still consider that green, even though it's got so much red in it? It's kind of a brownish, right? It's got all three of our primaries in it, red, yellow, blue. What happens if we do quinacridone? And I'm just going to start jumping faster because we don't need to mix every single color and every shade, but just to show you that just with this split primary palette, I've got a lot of range. This color is going to come out looking pretty similar. I think it's going to kind of exist in here. It's a little darker. That quinacridone is a slightly darker color than the cadmium.
That is a really brown color, like.
Yeah, because it's getting a lot closer to the reds. So if I want, well, actually, let's think of a color, kind of like an olive green. So let me clean my brush so I can start a little bit fresh here. I'm going to mix ultramarine blue. So I'm thinking olive green, ultramarine blue. Let's go Hansa yellow. Makes a great kind of an already darkish olivey green. I can even add a little more yellow to show you guys. All right, and let's put that bright, vibrant green right next to it so we can really see that difference. Right? You can really see how different it is. Just that little bit of red that's in the ultramarine blue really changes our greens. Like I just can't make as vibrant of a green with an ultramarine blue because of that red in there. Does that make sense, you guys?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's really good information. If your greens are too green and you don't want to mix, you know, across the color wheel towards red, try adding ultramarine blue instead of the manganese blue hue, and you have that red in the blue.
Try mixing the ultramarine with the Indian yellow.
All right, I already know what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a super dark
Mhm.
color. So where does this guy exist in space? He's anywhere, somewhere over like here.
Well, if you're
All
trying
right,
to mix olive, wouldn't you mix red with it to make it?
yeah, so well, that's what I'm showing you is that it becomes pretty olivey even without the red. But yeah, then I could just add, a touch of red to that. And I'll get this kind of, again, very much like pine kind of green. So that one's going to be kind of in this triangle. So kind of over probably like here. Right? Because it's got all three of these colors now. So you guys see how I begin to imagine color space a little bit when I'm asking, okay, it's green, the thing I'm seeing, but is it, vibrant spring green, or is it a little more fallish? Is it a little more yellow, a little more blue, or a little more red? Because these are all still greenish. I mean, maybe not this one, but they're all still greenish. So it's important that we look beyond and say beyond green. So let's do Indian yellow and ultramarine. It's going to make a very, very dark, but really a beautiful color, especially in its transparency right now. It just looks very dark. It's going to put that kind of almost in the middle. But watch this when I do the transparency of it. So put it on kind of thick. And then I'm just going to scribble that across. Oh,
That's beautiful.
Very transparent.
right. Let's add a little more Indian yellow to it and do it in reverse. See if I can get it thick enough to actually make it opaque, but maybe I can't. Nope, it doesn't want to go opaque.
Mhm. But if you wanted to make an area darker using glazes, that'd be perfect.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, talk about like trees versus a field
Mhm.
in the same feeling.
Yep.
Gorgeous. Now I want to add just a touch of quinacridone to it. We'll go in reverse again. Looks like the red wasn't strong enough. I'm going to go a little more quinacridone. You can imagine just this palette, the beautiful colors that you could get and how harmonious all of a sudden they would be together, wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
That looks like almost the shade behind Donna. Greens in the tree.
Yeah.
I just love that. So now I'm going to do, we have a good enough idea of kind of how this works, or do you want to see any other color combinations up here? Should I do some more graphs over to here real quick?
How about Indian yellow and manganese blue? Did you do that?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. All right, tell me what you think's going to happen there, Michelle.
I think it's gonna make a nice olive color.
So there's with mostly Indian yellow. And again, it's on the gray, so it's gonna kind of change it. So we're gonna go across in here. It's probably gonna be closer to the Indian yellow. Anyways, we'll just kind of put it here for, oh, it's gorgeous. Let's go ahead and put that down here as a, oh, it's lovely. Woo. All right, now let's go with the more with the Indian yellow, but more of the manganese blue. So that's gonna come down here, and I have no idea what all these spots are now, so but we'll just put it over here. Oh, it's nice. Still got a vibrancy to it. We're gonna go in reverse.
That's mesquite green.
Yeah, there you go. And still these colors have a harmony to them.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, out here, I see that green that you just put down. I see the reddish brown greens and the darker greens. And I also see a very cool blue green.
Very cool blue green. So I'm gonna grab my manganese, but it's very cool blue green. So maybe I'm gonna touch it with ultramarine just to make it so it's a little more in the middle of the blue, not so leaning so yellow, not so leaning so, or not leaning so green, not leaning so purple. I'm gonna grab my Hansa yellow. And where are we looking now that we're talking about this, Linda? Is this in the sky or in the
No.
bushes?
In bushes, in bushes. I'll have to take a picture and show you guys what and it stands out. It's it's a
Is
pale,
it the ghost bush or
no,
the smoke tree? Is that what it's called?
no, this is like little small bushes on the landscape. They don't get very big. Maybe 3 feet tall at the most.
Like sage or blue spruce
Um,
or sage?
No, sage is a more greener green,
Silver.
but it's a silver green. This exactly the green I'm talking about is a silvery green.
Well, you can already see just by adding the blues and the yellow and the white, all of a sudden how things start to want to go turquoise a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the bottom, the
Look.
tiny with the white patch next to it on the bottom, it's that and lighter. Yeah,
That, but lighter.
that and light.
So you'd have to gray it down a little, maybe?
Yeah.
I added too much yellow, didn't I?
Yep.
Yes.
Let's see, instead of mixing that pile, just move over. Kind of a gray,
Nice.
light
That's
blue
nice.
Yes.
green.
Yeah, that's almost perfect.
Aw,
A little bluer.
a little bluer. Which kind of blue do you think? Reddish blue or greenish blue?
Well, let's try a speck of manganese on one side and ultramarine on the other side of it.
Oh man, I'm charging you double.
Okay.
So there's the manganese. Still more blue?
Yes. And they stand out. They are always brighter than everything else in the landscape. Now, that last little bit of manganese.
Isn't that funny how this red is yellowy green a second ago, but now I put this vibrant color and it turned to gray?
Yes.
Not weird? All right. Colors are weird.
So the one on the left is almost perfect. That's probably just a speck more manganese and that would be perfect.
All right. I want it to be perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's got the white in it. So let's go ahead and I'm going to move down a line so we're not.
That's it.
But it's also got the gray behind it, which makes it a little tough. So you see how much bluer it appears over here.
Which yellow did you use?
Just, I believe the Hansa.
I think so.
That's a yellow light.
I'm going to go ahead and add the Hansa on the other side and come back with that.
That's really pretty.
It is very pretty.
Love
I
it.
hope so. Linda's paying double for it, so better be good.
Oh, Michael.
Here's with the ultramarine blue in there, just to see.
And that's almost like a shadow. You make the shadow color for it with the
Oh, you
ultramarine.
sure could, right? Yeah, if we just imagine it's right underneath it there.
Perfect, perfect.
I'm always trying to find the color on an olive tree. And
An
it's
olive tree.
between those two somehow. They're very silvery, almost. I don't
Yeah,
know.
those silver bushes can really get tricky. I know I'm just grabbing a color just because I want to see what happens when I.
And I have an olive tree too. I have one left that my vole didn't eat the roots of. It's silvery,
man.
and silvery colors do better in the desert where it's very hot.
Oh, because they reflect off the light.
Yeah.
All right, let me
Yeah.
clean my palette really quickly here. I'm going to show you guys with the black real quick. That was one of my first painting hacks I learned from my buddy Don Bishop. And my friend Ramona Youngquist, I believe, also does something similar. And I just couldn't figure out how they were getting these dirty olivey greens. But when I'm saying olive, I'm thinking more the fruit, not the leaf right now when I say that,
Okay.
Donna. You know, that kind of olive fruit green. That's not it. That's just a pile of color.
No, but it's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. Want to make sure we're not getting too many contaminants from previous beautiful colors. So I'm going to grab some of that ivory. I believe it's ivory black that I put out there. Is that right? Yeah, ivory
Yes.
black. So grab some ivory black. And I'm going to use the cadmium yellow because I do know that the Hansa yellow is probably going to be a little too weak to mix with this. I'll keep them apart because they're pretty crazy here. And
They're thick.
yeah, both of them are really thick. Well, you saw how old that tube of
Mm.
it's probably an 8-year-old tube at least.
That's pretty olivey.
And plus it's got the punctures in it. That's why it's got all that duct tape on it. So it's probably literally bled out all its oil. Whew. Yeah, it does not want to spread. It is. Ugh. It's like putting
Like clay.
yeah, but yeah, see those? So it barely reads almost as green, but what interesting greens, right?
Mm.
Mhm.
And then you could use just, let's take a little bit of that, add a bit of blue to it. And there's our olive.
Manganese or ultramarine.
I don't even know.
Ultramarine.
But yeah, what interesting, beautiful greens we get. And they just feel so Pacific Northwest to me. Again, I don't know if these would work in the tropics as well, or, down near the equator and stuff. But up here, well, I guess it would in the arid areas. But you see how it almost leans towards kind of a reddish green?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those remind me of colors out by Bend,
Right. Yes. Bend is a great,
the
yeah.
high desert.
Here's Indian yellow and ivory black. That Indian yellow is gonna basically disappear, right? Because it's so transparent. But what's fun here is when I start to add a little bit of white to it,
It comes back.
it comes right back. And it makes some beautiful, very grayed down, low chroma, but kind of rich in its own way. Let's add more Indian yellow. Add a little more white so we can actually see it. Sorry, that's gonna ring through for a second. Meant to have my phone turned off like I try to.
So that's just the ivory black and the Indian yellow a little bit there?
Yeah, yeah, isn't that interesting?
It's nice.
With some white. It needs that white, otherwise the Indian yellow really just vanishes into that darkness. Right? But as soon as we add a little white, that's instead of adding white, let's add some of that really dry cadmium lemon that we have there, because it's got already an innate lightness to it. So there's just so many ways to make green-ish colors, right? I mean, I don't even know if you looked at that at first, you'd say that's green.
Could you put it on white?
If you added one of the blues to it, it would go either way, like cooler
Oh,
or
definitely, yeah. It's gorgeous color. I mean,
It's really rich.
I really see that as the end of the summer, the grasses are just, I'm gonna add a little cad red to it. No, we said blue, didn't we? Let's
That's,
say, let's add some manganese blue to that, just to,
that brightens it a bit.
yeah, makes it a little more greenish. But it's not it feels brighter, but if I put it up
It's-
next to here, it's nothing, it's more over in this line. So that's just it. There's just so many ways to make greens. This is a completely worthless color wheel and chart I'm making since I'm labeling nothing.
Doesn't matter. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And
You have to experiment.
yeah, and that's just it. And I can go back in and try to maybe I'll watch the video again and go back in and label things after they're dry a little bit. I'm gonna do this one on here just so we have it. So that's basically the ivory black with very little of the white or the Indian yellow.
Someone that I discussed greens with very recently said that the ivory black is like a neutral black. That Mars gets warmer and carbon gets cooler, or the other way around.
Where you going?
Yeah, I
Carbon gets warmer.
never. Yeah, I have a hard time remembering all those too. That kind of.
I took notes.
Look and make
Oh.
sure.
All right, maybe you can share those notes because yeah, I keep meaning to do like all the different blacks and make different types of
Eggs
greens
and
with them.
mayonnaise on my list.
So let's do with the
Almost the opaque version of the one next to it.
Yeah.
right.
Michael, do you have viridian out?
I do.
Do you have any burnt sienna out?
Burnt umber. I can get burnt sienna out.
Well, burnt umber will be all right. It'll be a little darker, but I'd like to see on here how it compares.
So yeah, I wanted to do just kind of a couple of these greens out of the tube just to see kind of what they look like. So let's see, but you guys can see, I mean, look at all these greens, how earthy and realistic, again, these are gorgeous, but they feel cartoony, or like maybe you could save them for special elements within your painting.
Yeah.
But this feels like the earth. This feels like most living things. And I think one of the biggest giveaways to new painters when I'm, seeing new work or being asked to judge or look or whatever, is overly
Right.
vibrant greens. I think is one of the biggest giveaways. Because they just haven't learned to observe properly. So let me just clean this up and get it out of the way, and we'll test a couple colors out of the tube and just see where they lie. And now it's like every color on the palette is in this pile, and it's still beautiful and it's still green.
Yeah, actually, that's a very pretty green.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I can
Nice
and I
olive.
can bend that in any direction, just adding more red, adding more blue, adding more whatever. Yeah, it's a great color. Maybe one of my favorite colors we've made so far. Don't know where that exists on the color wheel. I guess somewhere in the middle.
Right in the middle.
Yeah. Except for it's got white in it too, but yeah.
yeah, put it up.
I would call that an olive green myself.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Good on.
So there's Viridian. I'm going to put the order out so I can see it. All right. I'm going to put out phthalo turquoise. How many lines do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Phthalo turquoise, which, we can debate whether that's actually a green. I've got phthalo green. And again, I'm just trying to put them in order so that I can name them when we're going across them. Sap green, which again is one of my favorites.
Mine too.
Do you have a chromium oxide?
Yes, I do. I don't think I've ever used it. It looks like a brand new tube.
Yeah,
All right.
I only used it to put it in a color square last time we did color wheels, and it's a really pretty green.
It sure is.
What's it called?
Chromium oxide. And it's kind of a bluish olive green. It's actually quite pretty.
It says here that it's transparent, but it sure looks
It-
opaque.
No,
Coming
it's very, very, I put it on my, last time we did color wheels in the last class. I was doing little squares of color, kind of like what you're doing, and it is a very transparent,
All right, now we're gonna have olive green,
which is very brown.
very brown, very reddish. Yeah, gorgeous color.
But it would be,
But yeah, but that's like the color that we almost just accidentally made over here.
yeah.
I have one called Terra Vert, but I don't know how that fits with oils.
That's a color that you can get here too.
I've had that color in the past.
It's very
Yeah.
transparent and it's nice to put just
Oh.
hint on something.
When I was looking for Terra Vert, I grabbed a color called ultramarine green.
Ooh.
It would be fun to, to do a color wheel mixing all those greens to see what kind of greens you get out of that. Is that what you're gonna do?
No, I was just gonna do lines across to see what
Fine.
they look like with their transparency, just for time's sake. But yeah, I mean, there's just
Yep.
so many experiments.
Yeah,
This is called cadmium green, which is very
oh
slimy,
my,
Ooh,
slippery.
that's bright. I mean,
Yeah,
limey green.
and I was gonna put out one last color called Italian green umber, but it's a very specific color made by Michael Harding, and I have a great big tube of it, and it's a pretty color, but it is so weak. It literally, I keep squeezing it out thinking it'll do something, but it disappears completely with other colors. But there we go. Okay, so that's quite the lineup of greens, right? And again, probably out of these greens, the ones I use are the phthalo green from time to time, phthalo turquoise from time to time, and then probably most common for me would be the sap green. But I've never done a little side-by-side experiment, so let's just see what they look like. So top one was the viridian green. Do you want to explain what viridian green is to us? Because I actually don't hardly know.
I think it leans toward phthalo, but I'm not positive.
Looks like it does.
But it's quieter. It's a much quieter color than the phthalo. But when you use that with burnt umber or burnt sienna,
Oh, I bet that'd be
it's an
beautiful.
extremely dark green that you can bring up with a yellow and ultramarine. You can tame it down with the red. But it's just a really good basic green.
I was gonna put that up here.
It is like phthalo.
Yeah, it does.
But it's not crazy. It doesn't scare you when it goes up there.
It
Uh-huh.
looks a little more like emerald colored.
Hmm.
So here's I'm just grabbed my burnt umber. Would we like it to stay transparent? Because I do have some transparent oxide brown. Or do you want to make it a little more opaque?
Make it transparent.
Okay. Transparent. All right, so here we go.
And
Yeah, so
transparent
this
red
is that
oxide.
transparent oxide brown, which I sure love as well by the Rembrandt. It's really rich, but still very transparent. So let's mix it down here. And let's have those two meet.
And if you were to use transparent red oxide, that's kind of the transparent version of burnt sienna.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it retains its brilliance beautifully. It does not get chalky when you mix it.
Okay.
Looks like I almost need to bring more of this.
When I did my color wheel, you wanted to know what those luscious fall greens and stuff. And it was viridian and burnt sienna. And then I put red and yellow in it.
So yeah, together it's almost black.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, what fun experiments.
Maybe the transparent earth red with that might look more green.
This is with the transparent earth red, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said brown.
No,
Oh.
it is.
Burnt
No, it
sienna.
is brown. Sorry. Transparent earth red. I'm sorry. Yeah.
There's no earth red out yet. But we could probably arrange it.
So leaning it towards yellow a little bit.
That's a pretty silver.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Huh. That is not exactly where I thought it would go.
Got a
That
little
would go nice.
viridian in there.
That silver would go nice with Linda's colors at the bottom of your chart.
It
Mhm.
would.
Her desert colors.
We'll
Let's
have to
add
get
a little
it.
more viridian back into it. Yeah, that's gorgeous. A little shiny up there, so we lower it.
And a little cad red will then pull it, or ultramarine blue will also pull it in a nice blue green. It's a really nice mixture that I'm trying my best to learn how to use. Because someone gave it to me.
So I'm curious, yeah, what would happen with adding more? So that's with cad red, a little bit of I don't know. I feel like it's gonna neutralize once it gets to the viridian.
Generally, it's like almost twice as much viridian as it is in the burnt sienna or the burnt umber.
That is a
Ooh.
nice green, very
That's
nice green. It
pretty.
looks like you could really adapt it.
Yeah, that looks like it'd be a nice fall palette if you stretched it either direction.
Yeah, it's won prizes. Let's just say that. Mine
All
hasn't.
right, let's go back to the dark with it. And yeah, I mean, that could be a fall, like at the beginning of fall or
Mhm.
mid-fall before all the leaves have turned.
But you could stretch that red end
Uh-huh.
into something really pretty. Ooh, that's pretty.
It makes good Vermont colors.
Ultramarine now added to it. A little too much. It's gonna really
And that's
darken it.
viridian green you started with, right?
Yeah, so Viridian has a lot of range.
Yeah,
Ah,
and
that's good to
looking at it
know.
when it comes out of the tube, it's like yuck.
Yeah, and that was the first color I think that's the first time I've opened that tube of paint. So that's good to know. Thank you. All right, let me just go back to down here and just drag it across as a transparent.
I like the blue-green color. I like that. That's pretty. Mhm.
Sorry, this brush is very I did not clean it properly. I needed something a little softer. There we go. And then what I'll do is just, that is amazing.
It's beautiful.
Man, Viridian, welcome back to the family.
Yeah, no kidding.
That is interesting. Yeah, I just never picked up that tube of paint.
Look how blue that is.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like a
Crazy.
different color altogether.
It's a nice turquoise color.
Uh-huh.
Here it is, yeah.
You can take that to Costa Rica with you.
This would be great. I mean, that'd be great in skies, next to pinks. That would be just ridiculous. And if you slightly grade it down and then put it next to some grayed down pinks and rose or peach colors, I just think, boy, that could be something special. All right, man. All right, that was a big diversion. Didn't expect that. Thank you. What do I have next? We've got phthalo turquoise, which is also a fairly transparent color. It's going to be somewhat similar, I imagine, but darker, bluer.
Ooh,
I
like
find, yeah, I do
Ooh,
find
that's nice.
phthalo turquoise is really nice for making greens as well as kind of a dirty purple. So you could see, I mean, this combination in a marine painting could be really interesting.
And that's phthalo blue,
That's phthalo turquoise.
phthalo turquoise.
All right, now we've got phthalo green.
And is that phthalo green hue? And phthalo blue
Nope,
hue?
it just says phthalo green.
and it doesn't say yellow shade or red shade or something.
No.
I have 4.
Yeah, I do, and mine say shade. It says green shade, yellow shade, red
Yes.
shade.
Those are oils?
Yeah. They're all
Very
phthalo
similar.
green.
Very similar to the Viridian.
Uh-huh.
So what a beautiful palette those 3 colors are.
Right, but I don't know if you would need phthalo turquoise and Viridian together, or phthalo green and Viridian. I think they could almost.
No, those 3 that you've got right there are beautiful together.
Are you seeing much difference between this and this?
Not
Yes.
much.
Well, it's darker.
Yes,
Bottom one looks a little greener. Top one looks a little bluer, but
right.
that may be the way you're putting it on there too.
Well, let's kind of wipe it back like I did.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot bluer,
It's brighter.
brighter.
That's so weird. Who would think phthalo green would be bluer? All right.
That color can go with red or yellow, just all kind of ways. I love
Oh
it.
yeah, it would do some really interesting things. When I showed you guys, right, that phthalo green plus quinacridone red makes blue gray.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of I love that color. All right, now we are to sap green, the color that I'm most comfortable with. But right, so that to me feels like literally like if somebody had to pick a color to make a shirt that represents the Pacific Northwest, that's kind of the green I envision.
Yep.
It's kind of reddish. It's pretty, but it's not, it's not showy.
It's solid.
So sap green. All right, next one is chrome oxide green. Is that right?
Yep.
Kind of a blue green compared to sap green.
Yeah, so this is another one that I'm not sure I've ever opened up this tube.
Mm.
It says it's transparent, but boy, does that look opaque to me.
I think it's mostly opaque.
That's mislabeled.
I'm gonna say it's almost like a cadmium color. It's so opaque.
What was that? Chrome oxide.
Chromium.
Chromium oxide, yeah.
Chrome oxide green. I swear it says it's transparent on the back.
Yeah,
Opens
mine says transparent too.
on the
Mine
back.
has dark and light too with that, or deep.
Yeah, I'm gonna wipe back away just to get some transparency in there.
Oh, there.
Now, in
I
a,
don't.
it's opaque.
Okay, yeah, I don't care for it. Like I'm sure you could do some really neat things with it, mixing it with reds and other colors, but it's already kind of grayed down. Like it feels like it has a little bit of white added to it. I just don't think that's a color I would bother to buy again. All right, next is what I have down as olive green, correct?
I think so.
Yep.
Which is so very, very, very dark on the palette. Oh, it's gonna go blue on us again. Interesting. Why would olive green be blue?
Yeah, it's more brown to me.
Here doesn't look like olive green. to
Wait
me.
a minute. This has got to be this color.
Yeah, olive
This has
green's
got to
above
be
it.
This has got to be turquoise green.
Okay.
Yeah, your olive's probably above it.
Now, the olive green's a real brown color.
No, that's not olive.
Oh, maybe I didn't squeeze. Maybe that was this one. Did I not use that one? All right, we're gonna come back to olive green.
I think we're
Looks
lost.
like I skipped it. Yeah, I did. I just skipped it. Okay, so now we're to the phthalo green, which makes much more sense because it is very, very, very blue.
Wait, you did phthalo green already, right?
That's terra verde. That's terra
I'm
verde.
sorry, ultramarine green.
Ultramarine green.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Neither.
UVW, ultramarine blue, violet.
Pretty blue.
Doesn't look very green.
Uh-uh.
I don't know if I care for this one.
All blue.
I think you're
That's
gonna
very
have to
blue.
add some yellow to that to make it green.
It looks like it's such an easy color to make. Like just a touch. It's also kind
There's a little green there.
of gummy.
Kind of a London blue.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I wouldn't call that green.
I wouldn't either.
Mm-mm. No,
Let's add some white to
Almost
it.
more Pacific blue.
Right, yeah. I mean, I guess it could be a nice oceany. Yeah, and it just turns instantly to gray when I added white to it, a very gray
Mm.
blue. I mean, that's a beautiful color.
Add some yellow to it.
Right, yeah, because that does not feel my brain does not want to call any of those shades green.
No.
No, I'd call those definitely blue.
But they might be a nice addition to some of your ocean paintings.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, instantly, that's really nice right there.
Yeah.
And I bet if you added Payne's gray to that, it would be really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're getting a little green.
All right, yeah, that's,
Mhm.
yeah. I feel like that's kind of a waste of a color. I think that's too easy to make. I wouldn't have ultramarine and that on there because
Mm-mm.
it just feels like a waste of space. Sorry, buddy.
Seems like
Mother
somebody
loved you.
labeled it.
Back in the drawer. All right. Let's jump back to our
Olive green. you meant.
olive green. So I'm just gonna change the order so I can keep track. Putting him down here. All right, who's still having fun? Who's still with me on all these greens?
Um,
Yep.
You guys are awesome.
I love it.
I love it too. It's so
And
I'm
Gail scares the heck out of me because she says, oh, well, now if you put that in there, then that would make it. I can't see those colors. I
Oh,
really
that-
could, but I can't do that.
very brown. You aren't kidding.
Yeah.
So this is a nice color, but it looks very similar to,
Mhm.
just adding a little of the reds gets me there very quickly. And I imagine it's kind of hard to unmake this color. So, it might be a nice shortcut, but I think it's an easy place to get to. This might be another color I'm not, because it even looks kind of like up in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's another color I don't need on my palette. It's probably beautiful. Let's add some white so we can see.
It almost goes yellow ochre.
It does, yeah. It's kind of yeah. I mean, it's a nice color. Again, I'll probably can find a use for it in a painting, but it's never going to be a color I squeeze out often or
Right.
get to. So I'm going to jump back to this side just to use our last two colors. So I am curious about cadmium green, right? Look how bright the tube is.
Can-
Yeah, I
Does it
think
say light?
I think maybe it's a color that Scott Gallatley thought I might enjoy.
Who might enjoy?
Scott Gallatley, he's another teacher at OSA. So it definitely has the opacity more like a cadmium color. And this is the 1980s version of it. But yeah, it's it's definitely got good coverage to it. If you want a bright,
Still the olive green that you're talking about?
no, I'm sorry, this is the cadmium
Oh, okay.
green. Which
It
is
looks
very,
like, I would call it lime. It's kind of the color of limes, right?
yeah, it's very limey. And it can get pretty transparent. Can you guys see the line underneath it?
Yep.
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
Trying to figure out where it exists in space up here. So it's cadmium, so it'd probably be like right there, right? Yeah, fits in
Yep.
perfect.
And I think that
Oh.
one would be easy to mix.
I think that's a super easy mix.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a little bit reddish compared to, so I'm wondering if it doesn't have, a touch of ultramarine in it or. Yeah, again, nice color. I don't know. I mean, again, maybe if I was painting a bunch of golf courses, I could use this or apples, sour apples.
Pears. It's a great.
Yeah, maybe it's even too green for pears. Too vibrant. But let's just go ahead and experiment with it. Let's just take it with the quinacridone red. I have a feeling that that's going to be nice. I think it's going to make a orangey browny green. Yep.
Ooh, that middle orange is pretty.
Right.
Early fall.
All leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could definitely have some fun with that combination there.
Was that a 1980 color by any chance?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay, it's.
I mean, that is one heck of a transition.
Yeah,
and look
that's beautiful.
What seems to happen here?
Yellow.
Weird, right?
Yeah,
I was like, I looked up at the screen, I'm like, oh, it's stoplights. Yeah, colors are so weird. Again, we'll get one more color in here. This is the one that I find to be maybe the worst use of money I've ever had on paint. Sorry, Michael Harding. Michael Harding makes amazing paints, and I keep feeling like I'm not using it right, and I'll keep squeezing it out. I squeezed it out on this vineyard painting, and it's a pretty color, but it just doesn't mix with other colors. It literally just disappears. Like, so here it
You have
is.
to mix it with Indian yellow or something, two colors that disappear.
did you call it Italian green? What is it?
Yeah, it's Italian green umber.
Okay,
And it looks, oh, no, it doesn't look very opaque anymore. I was gonna say it started off kind of opaque, but then it gets really transparent. I feel like there's almost too much oil in it.
Could be.
Good green gray tint.
Right, yeah, let's just add that to white, and
Yeah,
it's really what it feels like. And I should probably just kind of figure out what would be a really nice complement to that and do. I mean, you can see it just disappears. It just ate all of that huge pile of paint I put out, that little bit of white.
But it makes it pretty silver.
yeah.
There's your olive leaf color, yeah. Make it add a little touch of blue to that. But I mean, I don't even see green.
no green,
That
just.
really is.
I don't
very
see
Let's
cool.
Add some Indian yellow to it, because Indian yellow disappears too. It'd be fun to see what two disappearing colors do.
Right. I just added the
Viridian.
viridian, yeah. You know what's funny is on one side it says viridian hue, and on the back it says phthalo green.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
And no wonder they're so similar, when we were looking at these two.
Viridian's a mixture of colors. I have to look up the phthalo green, see if it's on here.
Yeah, so it makes a very nice neutral light. I don't even know when I would possibly use this color, but
Well, before you added the blue, it would have made nice gray clouds.
yeah. Yeah.
That's the color that of the desert color there.
Yeah, and then we're gonna get yellow with it.
According to my list, the phthalos are all single pigments. The others are blends.
Okay.
The phthalo green yellow shade and blue shade you're talking about?
Yeah, the phthalo green yellow shade is PG 36. Phthalo green blue shade is PG 7.
Cheryl,
Yeah,
could you
my
share a
phthalo-
chart?
Yes, I have. It's from, I picked it up at Pace last year. It's from Golden, and it has all of their, what then was their complete line of golden colors. So, but it has all this information on about where things are coming from. And I think that fascinates me, how it comes together like that.
Maybe you could post it on Padlet.
Well, I can take a picture. I sent a picture to Michael. I don't know how, oh, yeah. Didn't I send you a picture?
Oh man, I just get so many pictures from so many. No, I'm just kidding.
When we were talking about this acrylics.
Yeah, when we were talking about yeah, probably. I can see if I have it.
Yeah,
So there's, can you see it? So there it is, nice with the Indian yellow mixed in. I like
Oh,
that.
that's pretty.
I
Yeah.
can definitely see that being an opportunity to use basically this tube of paint, because it's a big tube.
look at the first color on the chart, on the line, the first line that you did.
Yeah,
It's-
It looks just like that, doesn't
It
it?
does.
Okay, we found a saving grace for this color. Thank you. Good idea. With
Yeah.
the lemon. Oh, yeah, look at this.
That's gorgeous.
Oh,
Nice.
Wow.
all it needs is a little white in
Little,
there.
little love.
Yeah, and then and plus Indian yellow. So I'm gonna add more Indian yellow to this end. So it's okay, cool. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do a whole
Look at
painting
how
with
bright
this.
yellow in the middle it turns.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I can see using that color a lot.
Yeah, that's fun. I think that, and then kind of maybe a burnt, maybe this transparent red kind of playing alongside it.
Hmm.
Mm.
Oh, what happens if I gray it down with that? I'm guessing it's just gonna get eaten by that color. Well, kind of grays down.
If you use that as that middle as your mother color and then played up something on either side of it, that'd be a beautiful painting.
Yeah, that might be a fun like doing maybe like next week when I want to show you guys sky holes and positive and negative shapes. That
Totally.
might be a fun way to use these colors. Wow, yeah, no, that green just disappears. I mean,
Mhm.
this looks almost just like it's got the burnt or the transparent earth red in it.
But they work really beautifully together.
It just slightly neutralizes it. Yeah. Well, I don't know why I just did that. Now I just put more in. So but yeah, these two colors side by side is gorgeous.
You can do
That's
something a little,
cadmium green I looked up, and it's a combination of green and yellow. It's the yellow is the same as the cad yellows, I think is the same number. And then there's a green 18 in there somewhere. But I don't have that on my list.
I never can find numbers on mine. Where are you?
It's good desert dirt.
yeah.
Mm.
Go back to the Indian yellow on this end of that. But I just love bending colors. I love seeing these little
Mhm.
gradation bands. I have so many photos, like when I'm mixing colors of just, these bands of transition, and then I'll just scoop them up, I'll make them into a pile of usable paint.
Do
Now
you
the
ever
yellows and
remember-
the yellows look the same.
Mhm.
Do you ever remember what you mixed with which?
I mean, that's why I don't use very many colors at a time.
Yeah, that would be hard for me to remember if I had several different colors I mixed together. Which ones were they?
Yeah, and that's again why I just keep to usually 7 or 8 colors on the palette, and most of them I'm comfortable with. Because yeah, I can only imagine trying to make a painting out of all these colors all at one time and just be
It'd be a mess.
completely lost and never able to remake a color. Still probably our prettiest colors, the
The
color
mixture.
just
all-
happened to be on there. Yeah. Great, beautiful. Let's mix
Put
it
that
with
one up
black.
on the chart, just to show what it was when we did it.
Yeah, the mix of all my primaries
Uh-huh.
basically, plus I don't know what else was on there. Makes it really nice. Oh yeah. That still looks really dark, pretty similar. Huh, not much transition. Anyways, so fun. This color wheel is chaos. But yeah, I mean, the great thing is after class, I can just wipe these paints off and, but it's got permanent marker on it. But this was a ton of fun and really good experimenting. I absolutely, there's a couple colors here I definitely like. Color combinations, viridian green. Holy cow, who knew? But it does so similar to a phthalo green. In fact, let's do one last experiment before we take a break. So I just want to see if I can turn this phthalo into the viridian, which, do we know what the color combination of a viridian is? It's phthalo green plus what, a little tiny bit of blue? Yellow?
It's got yellow, it's got a brown, it's got blue and white.
What?
And
How
whatever.
is it
number
so
six-
pristine and clean then? That is so weird.
It's quite a combination. Titanium oxide. Oh no, these aren't it.
Okay,
Natural iron oxide containing manganese.
I think I just made it though. Look at this.
Yeah. And what
So
did you?
all I did was phthalo green plus a touch more of the Hansa yellow.
There you go.
Make viridian.
Yeah. So Viridian, you're gorgeous. Don't need you. I think I can make
Ah.
you. But it could be the other way too. I just wouldn't need phthalo green. Oh yeah. So close.
Michael, could you remind me?
So I wouldn't need both of these colors, right? I would
No,
only need either phthalo or viridian, and I'm going to go with phthalo because of the fact that I know that with phthalo, just trying to make sure I'm grabbing the right one. Phthalo green is this one, yeah. Phthalo green with quinacridone red is just such a. Did I show it in this class or was that in the color class where I showed you
I
that
don't
it makes?
remember, but you can do it now.
All right, let's do it on the thing so we can see it against the white. So it's going to be phthalo green on top. And quinacridone red on the bottom. And when Scott, my color buddy from Gamblin, told me this, I didn't even believe him that it would happen. But he told me that you can make a bluey gray by mixing these two colors together. And this is also very close to how they would make a chromatic black.
It's a nice gray.
Yeah, it's great. Just a beautiful, beautiful gray. And there's with white added to it. See how
Michael,
it kind of makes it. Go
Can you
ahead.
remind me what the second from the bottom on the right is? On your,
Yeah, that was the ultramarine green.
ultramarine green.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't
Thank
worry
you.
about it. Let's pretend that color doesn't exist.
We can.
There you go. Look at that.
Great
Doesn't
sky.
that read as,
color.
doesn't that read as blue almost?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
kind of a turquoise blue, actually.
Yeah, kind of a gray,
Aquamarine.
blue, turquoise, and yeah, really fun. So
Almost.
I want to say Viridian is amazing, and it was a neat discovery, and now I understand it a little better. But I'm going to stay with phthalo green if I ever want that, because I can make phthalo green, I believe, do more. So yeah, so if I were to say the colors that I like and dislike or would, rebuy, I would go with sap green, I love. I would go with phthalo green just because it's so incredibly versatile. Phthalo turquoise is an amazingly beautiful, vibrant, dark bluey green.
It's just not quite green.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it really isn't. I bet you if we had just a touch of yellow on the other side. Let me just make sure we have a clean brush. I'm not positive where that brush has been.
Is that Hansa yellow?
Yeah, that was just the Hansa, just kind of keeping with the transparency.
Boy, that's a nice springy green.
It's pretty.
And let's add a little white to that and just see what kind of, oh, it's really quite bright.
Yeah, there's your spring green.
Right. And that's much more useful than that one.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, so I mean, you can just see how much fun this experimenting is. And, you know, the fact that I'm experimenting with way too many colors really makes it so it's hard, you know, it's hard to keep track.
I was gonna say, you
But-
can't exactly call it a controlled experiment.
Yeah, slightly controlled experiment.
Marginal controlled.
Slightly
experiment.
out of control.
Yeah, marginally controlled.
Yeah. So yeah, the phthalo turquoise is interesting too, but I'm not positive it's a color I would need very much. I think phthalo green can get us more because I think phthalo green plus a bit of ultramarine is going to get us right into here.
Mhm. Yeah.
So out of this pile, I think the only two colors I would buy any sort of regularity. Again, remember this is above this line here is Indian yellow and black. So I think that phthalo green and all sap green are the two colors I would get. I think all the rest I don't need. I don't think I need either of these two. And then these are from our previous colors. So, and they're gorgeous. I'm absolutely in love with these. So I think we're, you know what I mean? I don't have to change much about my palette. It's just like I could add one or the other or both of these as guest colors every once in a while. But also these colors are not too dissimilar from the colors we were making. I guess the phthalo green is not I don't think you can really make phthalo green. I mean, maybe phthalo blue and a little bit of Hansa yellow.
Yeah, but they are single pigments.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I like phthalo green even better than phthalo blue anyways, just because it does those interesting grays and blues. So yeah, out of all of this experimenting, only two things have changed, but more importantly, I've cleared it off that I don't need this color, 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 don't need this color, and I don't need that color. So, you know, whether you would say, oh, that was a good experiment or a bad experiment, it's a good experiment because these all cost a lot of money. And I can do so much with these. And I love what we did here. And you can really, hopefully this made sense, you guys, with, okay, it's not enough to ask what type of green, but where is it leaning? Is it leaning towards red? Is it leaning towards blue? Is it leaning towards yellow? Is it more in the brown? Is it lighter? Is it darker? And then modifying it accordingly, and then not making overly gigantic piles that are eating all of our colors. Cool.
Really cool.
Any questions? Otherwise, we'll take a little 5-minute break and come back. And I was going to do a little demo of that painting, but I think I would probably rather look at your guys' work. And then what do you guys want to do for homework? Would you guys just want to do some experimenting with green? Do you want to do like a painting of green things? What would you guys, or I can just leave it up to you. Your homework is to play and experiment with green.
Sounds
However
good.
you would like to present it. How does that sound?
Good to me.
All right.
So more or less do you know, for
Or,
lack of a better word, a monochromatic green painting.
Kind of.
I know
Yeah.
monochromatic's not the correct word, but
Yeah, I know what you mean, but a lot of green.
yeah.
Yeah, however you want to present it, but I want you to experiment. You know, I want it to have blues, yellows, reds.
Push the green.
Yeah, it could be an abstract, it could be a landscape, whatever it is. I just want you to make a lot of different greens and to learn how to kind of control them and basically asking the question. So I did give you that reference. It's those are all kind of bluey greens for the most part. But you know, feel free to experiment, whatever you want to do. I just want you to take this week to do something we just don't do, which is, you know, and something that's a common issue with us painters, is mixing and making greens.
So what are we doing for homework? I'm sorry,
With green,
just do greens, huh?
Yeah, but however you want to do it, Sharon, if you want to, you know, if you want to set up a still life with a green pear, green apple, and, you know, a couple things like that, you could. If you want to use any of the references, you know, I posted the one on the email. Whatever it is you want to do, Sharon, you can just do what I did today, just literally just make a bunch of different greens and experiment. And
Okay,
but yeah, I just want you guys to learn and focus and think about greens.
my favorite color.
Is that really, or are you being a,
No, green and red are two of my favorite colors.
no, perfect, you're a Christmas girl.
I'm a Christmas, they're so natural in nature, both of them.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna pop over and boom. Okay, so let's take a 5-minute break. That'll get us to 12:25, and we'll come back and look at your work for 5 minutes. Just kidding. Take a look at your guys' work. All right, see you in
5 minutes, you never could do 5 minutes.
I can't even say goodbye in 5 minutes. All right, see you guys in a second.
All right.
Okay.